but we're already recording. You ain't got to sweat that part. Let's hop into it. So, Steven, how's things going on your end in real estate? What's happening new in your real estate for you?
Yeah, well, and I'm in the Bay Area. I'm in Oakland, California,
Right.
and it's a very, very interesting time, man. I mean, I think first of all, obviously we're in a high, well, I say high interest rate environment compared to where we have been
Yeah,
over
very
the
much so.
last few years, right?
Agreed.
Historically, still kind of low, but where we have been, I think, is what has caused in my world the the stagnation or the slowdown of transactions, which
Okay.
is creating a bunch of opportunities for investors to purchase properties at better price points. And I think in the Bay Area, our average cap rates, right, are below the average interest rates, right? And
Right.
so that causes a problem for people who are wanting to buy properties where, hey, wait a minute, my rate's going to be higher than the rate of return on the building, right?
Right. Right.
And so, look, I mean, really the only way you can do that is if you're paying cash for a property or you're willing to, deal with negative leverage, meaning that the banks, you're not making money on the bank's money, you're losing money on the bank's money. That's negative leverage, right? And so if you're
Got it.
willing to do that for a period of time, you can get a loan and do that. But other than that, transactions have came way down. So now that requires sellers, right,
Right.
to meet the market. If they want to sell the property, it's going to be at a price point or terms to where a buyer can acquire the property and it makes sense. And meaning that it makes sense where you have positive leverage or there's positive cash flow. It's not like it was a year and a half ago where, man, you just listed a property
Come
and
on.
you got ridiculous, right?
Yep.
Ridiculous amounts of buy offers above asking price. Nobody really cared about the returns on the property. People just would buy it, right? And that's when
Right.
there's too much. When there's 2% money out there. That's what you see. So that has changed from which last quarter made it tough in terms of the amount of transactions. What we've
Mhm.
seen this quarter so far, though, is an increase in investors looking at deals, making offers, all right, working deals, and then in our shop closing deals, right?
Nice.
And I think that
Nice.
investors are feeling better about where we are in the sense of, hey, look, this is where we are. Maybe the world's not going to fall off a cliff,
Right.
but on the flip side of that, sellers are beginning to be a little bit more reasonable. Not all the way, but they're beginning to be more reasonable. You know what I
So
mean?
yeah, I know what you mean. Something tells me that half the time, sellers aren't always reasonable in general. Like it seems to be something that just kind of happens, where
Yeah.
some of the brokers that I talk to and some of the agents that I've spoken to, they'll have the sellers with these radically drastic numbers, and you as a broker or agent is like, come on, man, like that's not going to work. But you do it. Some of them do it anyway.
Yeah.
But I've always wondered when you get sellers like that, and let's say you have a buyer, let's say Oliver comes up and says, hey, listen, Steve, I'm out to get this property. What's up? And you got to talk to the seller, and the seller's like, hey, I want 25 million for this property. The property is only worth maybe 20, 22, something like that. How do you as the broker approach that and deal with that?
Yeah. I mean, a great question. And that's the bane of the broker's existence, right?
Right.
Is that the majority of sellers
Mm,
want more than their property is worth, right?
right.
And so I think that the first way that you approach that is in how if you're meeting with someone for a listing appointment, it's about how you deliver your presentation, and a lot of times agents and brokers are just coming and they're presenting, all right,
Right.
and then getting to here's the comps and here's the price, without understanding the story about
Mm,
the why the seller is wanting to sell. Every seller has a motivation,
got it.
right? And I think that when we can, whatever our price that we suggest ends up being,
Mm,
we can get to that point better if we can understand the seller,
right.
understand the property, and understand the story behind why the seller wants to sell. Then we can tie that in to the comps, the price points of the financials that we've been able to determine the price range that we feel that the property will get sold on, right?
Right.
It's just hard to do that when you're talking to somebody and you're just presenting without listening, and then this person wants $1 million more than you're willing to give them or get willing to sell it for.
Right.
Then it becomes like a argument style negotiation, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of agents are like, well, look, let me just get this listing and then we can work them down on price. In
Right.
fact, in some of the bigger brokerages, Marcus and Miller Chap is probably the biggest one that does this. They will just get the listing listed at a ridiculous price, knowing that they're going to work the seller down, and then they've got a big enough network to market the property to where it won't get sold. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, that's if you're a big brokerage
You can do that.
and you're selling large volume,
Right.
that can work. If you're an independent broker, and you need this property to sell for you to stay in
Right.
business or for you to earn a living, that ain't gonna
True.
work, man. And I just think it sets up a bad situation that you're gonna have to come back in and retrade the price of the listing, or you're gonna have
Right.
to field a bunch of seriously low offers, and so it creates a tough situation, man. And I just think that in my kind of personal philosophy
Hmm.
over the years is I don't want to take a listing to where I know it's not going to sell at that price,
Got it. Got it.
And now I've done it. It's something that we have to wrestle against every day now,
Hmm.
right? But I've recently a few people told, look, I'm not going to be able to sell that property at that price. We only make money when the property trades.
Hmm.
So I don't think it's going to trade at that. I'm just being honest with you, right? And that's kind of the guidance I've given. However, right?
Okay. Right.
Also, there is sometimes where the property is slightly over where you think it will sell. And if that person seems reasonable, I think that's an instance where we can work together and work to get to that price. But if it's unreasonable,
Right.
then not only are we going to waste our time, but we're going to damage a relationship with the seller by not being upfront with them because they're gonna think that we can get this thing done for them, and they're going to put their faith in us. And when it doesn't happen, instead of them looking and saying, "Oh, the market, is not there," they're going to say that agent, that broker, they couldn't get the job done. You know,
Got it. Right. Right. Which sets a
and
bad
that's
precedence going down the road.
yeah, man. And then I mean, another on the flip side of it, as we move into a buyer's market, right?
Right.
Which I don't know if we're 100% there, but I feel like we're moving there for sure.
Right.
Um, where the buyers have more leverage in the negotiation.
Hmm.
You also, if you're listing properties ridiculously, then buyers are not going to take you serious, man. And we're moving into the point where you want to have a solid, stable book of business who are buyers,
Right.
active investors, you know, that are making deals happen. So if you're coming at them and you are not, and your prices are way above reality, then they're going to think, well, this is just a person who's getting a listing just to have a listing. They're not someone who's really trying to, you know, look after my interests and get me into a good investment. So you have to blend, when you're a listing agent, you're a buyer's agent, you got to blend that. But you got to look at the end of the day, we in the game got to be more realistic to the real price points. And that does
Right.
everybody justice. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Here. So let me ask you this too. Then you have been done both. Like you clearly got a deep understanding of the market, particularly your market, as well as the market overall, right? And I've seen on your YouTube videos, you're very detailed and you're very direct in what you're getting. You get to the meat and potatoes and you're out, which is awesome for somebody to watch as a viewer. For you, as
Yeah.
someone who is both an investor and as a broker, you've been an investor, you've been a broker, you've been an agent. Does the abilities transfer as an investor to agent to broker, or is it as like an investor it's a waste of time to be a real estate agent, it's just better you just keep going? What's your opinions on that?
No, man, and that's an amazing question because look, at the end of the day, we all want to be full-time investors. Well, I wouldn't say
Right.
all, but I mean, it's a great aspiration to be a full-time investor. I got into the business first in the investment game,
Mm-hmm.
and then I morphed into sales in '06 when it was just easy money. You know what I mean?
Right.
It was easy money.
Right.
All
Sell
that.
itself.
You know what I
Got it.
mean?
Yeah.
It was easy money. What I found in '09, though, when I started my brokerage, was that I wanted to learn how to build a company. You know,
Okay.
and we're all entrepreneurs. If you're an agent working for a broker, you're kind of an entrepreneur because you're under that brokerage, but you're an entrepreneur for sure.
Right.
If you run a brokerage, you're definitely an entrepreneur, and if you're an investor, you're definitely an entrepreneur, right? And but building a company is another level of entrepreneurship. It's like the next level. It's like the next step. You know what I mean? It's one thing to be an entrepreneur. We go out, we eat what we kill, we have a vision, we bring it to life. We use capital and people and resources to make that vision come alive, right?
Right.
But then building a company where the company itself, is doing deals. The company itself is bringing in revenue. The company itself is building value. The company itself has equity and value,
Right.
right?
Right.
Is what attracted me to building a brokerage, right?
Got it. Got
And
it.
it is no easy task, by the way. No easy task, man.
I believe it. I believe it.
I will say this though: all the skills they are intertwined, right?
Okay.
First of all, being an agent, it's hard to be a broker if you don't know what it's like to be an agent, right? I mean, I guess it can be done, but you need to know what as an agent what it requires, right? And a lot of us, and I'm still a producing broker, right? Which is, I've given myself 5 years from this January to the point where I'm not going to be a producing broker anymore. I'm going to be
Right.
a CEO broker. And
Nice.
what I mean by that, what I simply mean by that is that um, we are going to be to the point where we're building. I'm going to be building and expanding the company, not listing and selling. And
Right.
and a big part of that then means that primarily will be out investing into deals, right? So we
Mm.
corporately do syndications as a brokerage, and that's something I think a lot of brokers, a lot of investors do syndications like individually. Like, hey, I'm a person. I'm going to do syndications, put investors together.
Right.
What we're doing is, as a company, saying, hey, this is what we're doing corporately. And this is our big, what's called a growth opportunity, how we're going to grow, how we're going to expand the company, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it is like a company like a Goldman Sachs, let's just say, they're in the finance industry. They started out being an investment banker, and they are the largest or one of the largest investment bankers, right?
Right.
But their business is vast. They do trading. They do different types of finance. They have different arms of what they do, right? And all of those skills are intertwined. And I think if you're going to be a real good investor, you have to understand the brokerage world because you should be in one way or another working with brokers.
Right.
The most successful investors I know kind of have a stable of their favorite brokers to bring them deals, number one,
Mm-hmm.
but also to sell their properties, number two. And then maybe number three, more importantly, to advise them, you know? Um, you know, doing deals is a lot of work. And
Yes, it is.
the investors that are set up, they got extensive teams. And there's different levels, right? Like institutional investors,
Right.
big companies, right?
Right.
They have internal teams on salary and payroll and all this, but they still work with brokers, right?
Yep. Yep.
But most individual investors, even if you got 10 units or you got 10,000 units, may not be institutional. You got to have a team, and a big part of your team. I don't know not one commercial apartment investor that doesn't have a stable of brokers. At least a couple, three that they prefer. I know many that have. Now, some of them have too many brokers, right? Because they're just like, hey,
Right.
just bring me a deal,
Right.
and so
Right.
there's a lack of loyalty. But the best, they have a crew, and they stick with them. So I think that as an investor, knowing and the best thing we as brokers and agents do is hunt down deals. You know what
Right.
I mean? We hunt down deals. Every deal that is before it hits the market, it was an off market deal, every single one of them.
Absolutely.
And you know what I mean? That's what we do. What do investors want? Well, they want off market deals.
Right.
So investors hunt for deals as well. But most probably, I would venture to say, now residential can be different. But if we're talking multifamily commercial, most of the off market deals are going to be brought to you by brokers. And most brokers have a stable of off market deals where they've been talking to sellers, and the seller says, hey, look, I'm not going to list my property, but you bring me a buyer, then we can do some business, right?
Right.
And I
Right.
hate to hear that. We hear it all the time, and so that's just part of it. And then if I talk to a buyer and says, hey, look, we're in exchange, these are our requirements, and then I know their requirements, and then I know what's out there in the marketplace, then I can bring those two together. I bring value to both parties, and we,
Right.
we get a nice we get a nice fee for it,
Right.
and that skill set transfers directly into investing,
Right.
right? And like, a good part of the deals that I've done, probably all of the deals I've done, well, not all of them, but have came through my brokerage one way or another.
Right.
So like, okay, we find a deal, we do a lot of marketing, we see something, and we may think, okay, well, this might be a good acquisition, and we can go after it. Or one of the agents comes in, and that's really where I'm trying to get to,
Right.
is having my agents come in and say, hey, Steve, this is a good looking deal. This is one you should buy, or this is
Right.
one you should do. In your group of investors, you have a buyer for this, right? And so a lot of the deals we list properties and sell them as well, but a lot of the deals that our investors or we acquire comes through our process of finding deals, right? And I said, I
Okay.
think you have to cast a wide net. I think real professional investors, they're also looking for deals on their own, but also engage brokers.
Right.
There's a couple companies here in California that are funds, and their acquisitions managers, or heads of acquisition, they reach out to me, and I'm sure all the other brokers that are doing something on a regular basis. Say, hey, this is what we're looking for. I got an exchange, or this is what we're looking for in your area. You find something off or on market, you can represent us. We just need a deal, right? And so I think that when you asked about the answer, it's a long-winded way of answering your question, but the skills intertwine
Yeah.
directly.
Yeah.
And also, I think for agents and brokers listening, because most of us, if you don't aspire to own property, you should, because it's like if you're a Cadillac salesman and you're driving a Honda, you know what I mean? And there's
That look
nothing wrong with
wild.
Hondas.
Yeah. That just look wild. It just looks weird.
And there's nothing wrong with a Honda, but you
Right.
over here telling people about the benefits and amazing of the Cadillac world and the brand, and it's so awesome, but you pulling off in a Honda, you're
Right.
not eating your own cooking. You know what I'm saying? And so like,
Mm-hmm.
it's so many agents, man, who haven't built up an investment portfolio. I know a bunch of agents who are investing in stocks. I was like, hey, nothing wrong with the stock market. You should invest. We all should, to an extent. But it's like,
Right.
how you selling real estate every day, right? But you're not owning it, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're selling investment property, when you own it, you can have a different conversation with your clients because you're
Right.
one of them. Maybe you're on a lower, you have less units than them, maybe, or maybe you
Right.
have more, but you can give them guidance from experience and not just from education. Although, don't let if you don't want to have properties, don't let that stop you from working with investors. But
Mm.
what you should have is an ambition, a drive, of to get to that point. And I think so. So therefore, I think the skills are interrelated, and there was in the single family world, there's a big for an investor single family world. It was a big
Mm.
kind of, and I don't hear this so much now, but early on in my career, the 2000s, a lot of people will say, well, don't get your license, man, because once you get your license and you're sitting down with sellers, you got to disclose stuff and you got to be honest and all this kind of
Mm.
stuff because you
Right.
have a license. You can't defraud people. But I'm like, I don't think. Look, if I'm doing deals, I don't want to be dishonest with people. I don't want
Right.
to, you know, put the wool over their head, so to speak. I'm not trying to bamboozle nobody. I'm trying to get a good deal as an investor,
Of
and it's
course.
not. And so what I had when I got going, an old broker tell me, look, a bunch of people say don't get your license. That's hogwash. Get your license,
Mm.
and you can tell people, you can explain to people what you're doing. And if you're trying to buy something, you're trying to buy something at a discount, you just tell them, hey, We can get the deal done if it's a cash deal or whatever at this X amount of price. Hey, we can list it. It would take a lot longer. You may get more, but you're gonna have to pay more fees. You're gonna have to go through this. And if
Right.
you and he was saying, if you give people the option and you tell it to them straight, 9 times out of 10 they're gonna want to do the deal directly with you anyway.
Yeah.
And if you structure it right, you can even get a commission out of it. So
And that's what I was
I
gonna
just
say
think
too,
that
Steve. That's what I was saying.
yeah,
I didn't mean to cut you off, but even when you
no,
do
it's
that,
perfect.
you're getting paid either way. You're gonna get a W out of that, right? If they sell, you're
Yeah,
gonna get a win either at the
yep,
price that you want higher over a longer period of time, or I'm gonna get the cash price because either way, as the agent or as the investor, you're gonna get something out of it. So it always seems interesting to me that sellers will give people a hard time when you literally have brought them in to help you sell a property. You didn't say, hey, I want to sell it at 10 years from now. You want to say, hey, I want to sell it as soon as possible or within the next 3 or 4 months. So if that's the case and the person you call in says, hey, this is how it is, this is what I'm looking at, it's mind blowing to me when they're like, no, I don't want to do it that way, or I don't agree. And you're like, okay, cool, but this is what it is.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, and that's a great point, man, because it's like it just I just think that if we're honest with people and
Mm-hmm.
we shoot straight, that it's going to work out. And if it doesn't work out the way you want it to, if you lose a deal for being honest, I guarantee you're going to make one up. You know what I
That's a
mean?
fact.
If that person is like, hey, look, I'm trying to, look, this is the comps and this is what you could get, and they end up, not wanting to do a deal with you or not listing with you, right? But they go
Mm-hmm.
somewhere else, but you kept it real. I just think that it's going to come back to you in another deal. It's kind of
I
like
agree.
I just live by the principle: you reap what you sow. So you sow these seeds, and I know people who don't live by that and do probably a lot more deals than me. But that, like for instance, for you, your listeners, me, when I listen to people, I'm you know, trying to speaking to or whatever. I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna always advocate for shooting straight, being a stand up person. Things are gonna work out sometimes. Things are not gonna work out sometimes.
Right.
But I think if you roll like that, more often than not, that it's going to work in your favor, especially if you're a real estate investor. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying?
Absolutely.
Because there's not a lot of people or an agent broker. It's most people is not rolling like that, man. And when you do that, it stands out. Somebody is going to appreciate that and
Right.
want to break some bread with you, man.
That's absolute fact. Let's go back a little bit. Earlier,
Yeah,
and this is something that I'm learning. So you're going to be teaching me a little bit as we talk about this. You mentioned that the best investors that you know, the bigger one, not just the bigger ones, but the ones who are doing well, always have a
yeah.
stable of brokers. As an investor working to figure it out, they're out here working and building their team. What's the process in getting a hold of a broker? And then on that note, how do you, matter of fact, we'll approach how do you know it's a good or bad after that. But for now, let's answer the question, or can you answer the question, how do you go about finding brokers and being able to work with them?
Well, excellent question, man. And there's a few different ways, right?
Okay.
Now, the tried and true method is
Right.
looking at listings,
Okay.
and when you look up listings that you know represent what you're looking for,
Right.
right? So you look for apartment buildings, and you pull up LoopNet or CoStar or Crexy, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
in your market, and you see somebody they've got a couple listings, or you want to reach out to those people. You generally want to talk to people who are active, right?
Right.
But then, so when you talk to them, it's about relationships. Some people are more transactional.
Mm-hmm.
I think from an investor standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
you definitely want people that are more relational. You know, in a sense of if you're working with someone long term, because they're going to think about you first when they find a deal, and they're going to be looking out for you because they know, hey, if I not only find you a great deal, but if this person makes money,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to use me over and over again, right?
So,
So you
Steve,
want to find some,
before you continue, go into a little bit of what that conversation sounds like versus
yeah.
the transactional, so people understand the true depth of what you're saying.
Yeah, no, and thank you for asking that because I think that's you hear this transactional brokers people. Okay, so a transactional broker, when you call them about their listing,
Hmm.
they're just going to talk about their listing, and they're going to pre-qualify you for their listing.
Got
Oh,
it.
what are you looking for? You like this? You got you got capital for this, and to come and see this property, boom, boom, whatever. You know what I mean? And then let's say you go see the property. Let's see you work with them, or even write an offer, do a deal with them. It's always going to be about that deal or the next deal.
Okay.
Now, this can be, I don't want to say confusing for investors, but it can be kind of misleading because transact the difference between that, the transaction, the deal,
Hmm.
and the relational person or broker is someone wanting to build a relationship with you is going to ask you questions about you and what you are trying to accomplish,
Got it.
what your rate of returns requirements are, what your cost of capital is, right? What your long term and short term goals are, right? And what are you looking to get from this whole real estate investing business, right? And when you encounter people that either ask you those questions directly, inquire, and or follow up with you in a way where they're looking to figure out what your interests are,
Hmm.
right? Then when you do that, you can serve someone's interest. When I know, hey, I want, because I'll ask investors all the time, well, what's an ideal investment property look like? That's kind of my
Right.
one of my go-to questions I ask, right? And when someone, I had this happen yesterday, someone said, I just want to make as much money as I possibly can. And I told the guy, well, thank you for saying that. Everybody says that. What does that mean for you? What does that look like?
Right.
Right? Because I want to make as much money as I possibly. Everybody wants to make as much money as we possibly can. You know what I mean?
Right.
You're looking for value added deals. You're looking for stable deals. You're looking for B2C property. You're looking for apartments. You're looking for industrial. Or you looking for specific types of value added properties where, like, for in my market, you're trying to come buy tenants out, or you're looking for type of properties where you can add additional units to it.
Hmm.
Are you looking for a property that you can add the use? That I just rattled off the top of my head like 8 to 10 questions, right?
Right.
That would direct me differently on based on what you're trying to do. So I'm trying to make money as matter of fact as much as I can. I have no context for you. All I'm going to
Right.
do is just send you a deal, send you a deal, send you a deal, send you a deal. I have no idea whether you're going to like that deal or whether you're not going to like that deal. Right now, most
Got it.
investors, to their defense, like, yeah, everybody wants to make as much money as you can. So I mean, in a way, that's better than saying I don't know, right?
Right.
But when like if we work together on something, it's going to force somebody to sit down and really crystallize what they want. Because I'm going to ask those questions. I'm going to be persistent about it.
Right.
And then I do have some clients though that'll tell me, right? There's this one institutional deal. But I haven't done a deal with them, right? But I will send them deals, only deals that he's mapped out. But they're very specific with their criteria, right? So I'm not
Right.
sending them deals every week. I'm sending them only deals that, based on his criteria, based on what they want, based on our relationship to this point, he has expressed to me that he wants, right? Every single time I send it to him, I learn something else because he tells me, no, I don't like it because of boom, boom, boom. So that is helpful. Even though we haven't closed the deal, I
Right.
know we are building a relationship because I know what he wants. I know I have a real good idea of what he don't want, right? You know what I mean?
Right.
And
Right.
as we move further down that line, we get closer to what he wants. Now, so a transactional person or company
Hmm.
is going to just deal you. Oh, I got this deal. I got that deal. I got this deal. It doesn't matter if that deal fits your criteria or not. And I think this is dangerous, especially when you're doing a 1031 exchange, right?
Okay.
Because what happens is you need to buy a property, right? Or you're going to pay a bunch of money in taxes. When you sell a building, you are doing an exchange. So a big brokerage house, I'll go back to Marcus and Miller Chap because they're not no shade against them, but they're the big guys of the industry. They will list your property, no problem. They'll get it sold, no problem, and they're probably gonna get you into a deal. They're just turn and burn, man. They're getting
Right.
you into a deal versus really understanding. First of all, the asset that they're selling,
Right.
and when you do an exchange, you should be acquiring a better asset, not just deferring taxes. The deferral of taxes, in my opinion, is the icing on the cake. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
buying a better asset. Now, what does that mean? Okay, it can mean more cash flow, better location, better building class, better, a newer building, newer market, whatever that means to you. But if the broker hasn't taken the time to figure out that investor's reasoning for selling, then they're
Hmm.
not going to be able to figure out the better asset. They're just going to slam a deal down their throat because they don't want to pay taxes, and they know that, right? And they got them,
Right.
and they know, look, we're just going to send them a bunch of deals, and then time's going to get short. They're going to have to make a choice. We're going to turn and burn, turn and burn. So when I say transactional brokers, what I mean is turn and burn. Now, let me just say this as well. There's a
Okay.
bunch of people in my market that sell a bunch of properties that also, are relational. You know what I mean? So just because you're like a relational or relationship driven brokerage
Hmm.
doesn't mean you can't do a bunch of deals. There's a company called the Case Group, and they do, and in fact, they're nationwide, but they're based here in the Bay Area, and they do single tenant, triple net. You know what I mean? I mean that is
Wow.
they are the kings of single tenant, triple net brokerage, at least in California. And most of the stuff they sell is throughout the country. But I mean, they just dominate, man. You know what I mean? I'm
Wow.
talking about like hundreds of transactions a year. And if they didn't do $1 billion last year in sales, I would be surprised.
Right.
Um, but they're relationship driven. They have relationships with all the top buyers
Interesting.
and sellers of these single tenant type properties.
Interesting.
Now
Okay.
they blend that with their machine in terms of their company and their operations. So they're and this is they, to my knowledge, they're
Hmm.
not under like a big corporate brokerage. I believe they own their own shop and they're independent. Now I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure because I don't when I see all their marketing, I don't see a brand. I see their company, the Case Group.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that though, Steve, because like my next question to you was going to be, hey, does it matter? Like, are we looking for places that aren't as big? Because the bigger companies, just like any big company, the larger the production gets,
Yeah,
not necessarily the less the quality, but the different the process has to be, and it makes sense. But to hear that there's another company out there that's doing it and still has those relationships
yeah.
is absolutely impressive.
Yep, yep.
Now,
No, it is, it is. And I admire, it's competitive, right? In the brokerage world,
absolutely,
it's competitive everywhere. We got the Super Bowl coming up, right? You know what I mean? Football,
yes,
I'm
we
a big
do.
football guy. It's basketball season. Whatever sport you're into in America,
Right.
is competitive. Everything's competitive. School's competitive. Brokerage
Yep.
is not, no exception,
No
right?
different. Right.
So, and investors and developers even more competitive. If we're honest, right? So this is
Right.
what we all do. So, but for me, I like to study what's going on, and I can appreciate people like the Case Group because they are consistent and they're beating the big boys, at their own game,
Right.
and they're doing it in a way where they have a good name, they have a good brand, they are delivering value for their customers, and for me, that gives me motivation. It says, "Hey, look, man, this can be done." All right? Now, they're single tenant, triple net.
Right.
Um, Most
That's
of what I do,
nuts.
and look, man, that's hey, look, and the cool part about it, you know how retail properties have taken a hit over the last few years, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
These dudes are. It's like none of it mattered to them. Right? I'm on the list, and so I get an email about a deal they close every week, and I'm like, man, they just closed a KFC, they just closed a portfolio of Dollar Generals, they just closed a Walgreens, and I'm like, man, we're
Wow.
in this pandemic, and they're doing all this stuff. So it just shows that you can be relational and
Right.
still close a high volume of deals. Now, it's difficult. And I would say this is my challenge as I am looking to scale, right? The more clients you get, the more deals that you're doing. And I would suggest for investors probably the same thing. The more, especially if you syndicate, the more investors you have, or more buildings, more tenants you have, right?
Right.
Just it becomes more of a challenge to deliver the same quality of service
Right.
when you were smaller. You know what I mean? So it requires everything of you to grow and expand.
Absolutely.
However, it can be done. It's being done every day of the week. We can do it now, and I really don't think you have to sacrifice your value system or building relationships with people just to turn and burn. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
It just may require better systems. It may require better lead conversion. It will definitely require a better team that you got. You know, but I think we
Absolutely.
can beat transactions. So that's what I say for investors out there saying, how do I know which broker to work with? Well, first of all, you got to work with somebody who's got business, right? Because it ain't
Right.
gonna help you and listings. Because you are looking to get to listings maybe before they hit the market. Now, a broker who's been in the business a while, they have relationships. They're probably going to have two or three to five top clients to
Right.
when that deal comes, they're going to send it to those people first. Why is that? Because they closed with them before, they know they can perform, they like working with them, type of thing. So when you're new or you're new to that relationship, you know, you've got to kind of build it,
Absolutely.
and let people know, especially what'll help you is closing a deal and doing what you say you want to do. Even if, look, the deal takes longer, the lenders, right now, like we're all having challenges with lending, right? The lender, maybe falls out the end, you got to go. But I've had deals, right, where the deal fell apart. But
Right. Yeah. It happens.
either the client that I was working with was like, "Hey man, I appreciate the way you handled that." Or even I had with other brokers, I had a deal. There's this guy Phil who's now one of my agents, but he was
Hmm.
with another brokerage, and it was a grueling deal. And the seller, his client, actually was underhanded and did some fraudulent stuff. We ended up in court and all this stuff, right?
Wow.
But when it was all said, it was a grueling deal, and the seller, his client, actually was underhanded and did some fraudulent stuff. We ended up in court and all this stuff, right? But when it was all said, appreciate what you're doing. You know what I mean? And you know that comes through just being a straight shooter and doing what you say you're going to do. Don't come to these investors and say, "Hey, I can do a $10 million deal all cash," and then when they bring you one, right?
Right.
And then you're like, "Oh, I have to call these other people, and then I got to go raise the money, and so on and so forth." You
Right.
want to be upfront about what you are and what you can do. You want to be consistent. You want to show them that you're serious, and then you also want to have a couple of them that you work with. You know what I mean?
Right.
Now we all want the investors to only work with us. That would
Of
be great.
course. Of course. I mean,
That
there's
would be
nothing. I don't
cool.
see nothing wrong with that. I get that. I 100% get
Yeah.
that.
Right, right, and that's just part of business. Now, I think that what I find more often is that
Mhm.
investors do typically have one or two, maybe three, that
Right.
they will list properties with. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
But but investors will have multiple brokers to find them deals because one broker is not going to have all the deals. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Of course not.
And that's
Yeah.
just facts, right? One
Right.
broker ain't going to have. You could be the top 1.1 whatever percent of your marketplace. Somebody else is still going to have a deal you don't know about,
One hundred
right?
percent.
So that it makes sense to have. That's as an investor, you want to have make sense to have those relationships, and then those agents or brokers can bring you deals.
Mhm.
And it's like if you have a broker that you're working with on everything, and then someone else brings you a deal, and you know, you can't as a broker, you can't be mad about that. No, such
Yeah.
and such brought them a deal. It was a hell of a deal. They did it. They did it. They made money. You can't be mad at that. You know what I mean? Now, I do know some people who will not do anything if it doesn't go through a particular broker. I have a couple clients like that, and I love them. If another
Interesting.
broker brings them a deal, they're going to call me and say, "Steve, what do you think?" You know what I mean? And hey,
Right.
they'll tell the broker, "Look, hey, I appreciate you bringing me this, but I need Steve to look out after me."
Right.
You know what I mean? And those are a dime and a dozen. I will tell you that much. You know, but for certain people like that, they want there's certain people that value advice and guidance. Now you got to be at a level where you can give that, and that comes through some years of experience, man. You can't just come straight in the game and expect people to. I'm only working through
Yeah.
him unless
That's
that's your
right. Yeah.
auntie or your cousin or something or your
Right.
mom's. But yeah, when you develop an expertise, then people will work with you. And I think there is something to be said as an investor
Mhm.
is to have someone like that because you're going to get hit up. Once you get out there and you get your name out there, you get to the brokers of the world, and every investor should be doing some kind of marketing for deals, right?
Absolutely.
Just some kind of market. It's a business. You are running a business, by the way. As in real estate, that's what makes us a little bit. Some you can passively invest in real estate. You can't do that. But if you're an active investor, you're running a business at the end
Yeah.
of the day.
Yeah.
So you should be marketing yourself in some way. But having someone that you can call and say, "Hey, man, what do you think about this deal?" Or "What are your thoughts?" And somebody who can actually analyze a deal and give you objective advice, oh, that's critical. I had a client call me up and she's looking at a 12-unit condo portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, she called the broker because she saw it. And then she called me up, "Hey, I want you to follow up with this guy. Let's look at the numbers. I like this neighborhood. I think we can do it." Right?
Right.
I got the package back from the broker. It's funny, we text each other almost at the same time with the same thing. Just basically the numbers was all bad, man. You
Right.
know what I mean?
It look ugly.
And she knows I'm gonna tell her that. I could have
Right.
said that, hey, it's a $2 million deal. Let's just get it done. You can make it. But I can't do that, man. I've
Right.
closed down transactions with her before,
Absolutely.
right? This is just one of
Absolutely.
my, A-list buyers and sellers. When she gonna sell something, she gonna call me. So when she calls, so think about that, investors that's listening. Having somebody that is gonna have your back like that is worth its weight in gold, especially because
Absolutely.
we, unlike an attorney or some other professional consultant, we don't get paid to a deal closes. You don't have to pay us some $10,000 retainer to get quality advice. In fact, like on that deal, I'm not going to make anything on that deal
Right.
because we're not doing that. But I know I value the relationship, so I can easily text her and say, "Wow, these numbers are not good. It's a negative cash flow without a mortgage." We looked into, and so all of y'all listening, right? You can if I don't care if you buy houses all day long or you buy hotels or sophisticated leveraged buyouts of companies. We can all look at a profit and loss statement, right? And some are more complicated than others, but we can look and see if it's a negative on the net income numbers, right? And okay, all right, well, that's the problem. Now, let's go dive into it, right?
Right.
And
Right.
when you look at the numbers, a lot of times people will send you a profit and loss statement where they have the mortgage payment in the expenses,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to look out. So that's the first thing I see because property management softwares are kind of like that. So we're looking at net income, thinking that okay, that's what I use to pay my mortgage with, right, or NOI. But a lot of time the mortgage payment will be in the expenses. Just that's a lot of how a lot of systems are. We know that the debt service is not an operating expense, right? We looked at a set of numbers where I saw a negative net operating income. I was like, all right, well, let's take the mortgage payments out. Maybe they're paying hard money. Maybe they're paying high rate. When I looked and I saw, well, there's no mortgage payment calculated in these expenses, then they are losing money
Yeah.
before they pay a mortgage.
Right. Right. That's a flag. That's an immediate flag.
Man, that is a red flag with a captain pirate symbol on
Not the
it.
pirate skull. Oh, not the
You
pirate
know,
skull.
that's like them pirates in the ocean
Yep.
trying to take over the fuel tankers. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? That ain't cool, man. But saying all that to not to belabor it, but you want to have a team of brokers that you can trust and that have deals
Mm-hmm.
and that are looking to develop a relationship with you. You know what I mean? And other people in your team, of course, as
Of course.
well. Accountants, insurance people, attorneys. We attorneys is like can't live with them, can't live without them type of
Yeah,
thing.
that's
You
a
know what I
fact.
mean?
That's a fact.
You got to have them on there. You know what I mean? Title. And look, let me just tell you, title and escrow is also very, very important. I know every state. Now, Oliver,
Sure.
which state are you in?
So I'm currently in Baltimore, or not. Baltimore's not a state. Lord forgive me. Anybody, stop laughing. I know you're laughing and listening. Shut up. I'm in Maryland. I just happened to. I was gonna say Baltimore, Maryland. Don't you judge me. I hear you judging me over here.
Yeah.
But
You're a
yeah,
Ravens
I'm in.
fan, right?
No, absolutely not. I am a Carolina Panthers fan, and it's been tragic for me for a little while now, since '95. We've been struggling.
Oh man. Well, y'all had a couple years when Cam was on top. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Just
Well, even
didn't
then,
work
like we get to the Super Bowl, we take the L in the Super Bowl. I'm
out.
don't get me wrong. I'm greatly appreciative that I got to the Super Bowl, but I'm not
Yeah.
gonna lie to you. As a younger franchise, I wanted the W. 100%, I
Yeah.
wanted a W, and that's just
Yeah.
that's just me. But don't get me
Yeah,
started
yeah.
about the
No,
Panthers. I
you're
will.
right. You're
Man, this will
right.
turn into a football podcast real quick,
We'll be here all day, man. We
right?
can definitely talk ball, man. That'll be the next one.
Bet. Say no more. Say less. All
Right,
right.
right.
So, Steve, man, that's. What's interesting is what you said. I have a couple case proof of cases, and just to back up what you said, and for those who are listening and watching, I got a couple friends. One by the name of Vadim. He is out of. He works for a company called Fairwinds Capital out of the Norfolk, Virginia, Hampton Roads area, and Vadim has done amazing things within a year time span of him really dedicating himself to the game of multifamily real estate. And one of his biggest things, he and I talk, we go back and forth, and he'll tell me, man, the most important things is relationships. He has had more deals come across the board from somebody he talked to 3 months ago, 4 months ago, who he had a positive interaction with, and that deal comes across. So I say that to say to those of you listening and watching, whenever you are out here looking at brokers, understand, even if the broker cusses you out on the phone, fusses you out on the phone, just remember the relationship is something you need to be after. So don't be that guy, don't be that gal.
Yeah,
Work with them as much as possible. If they go to the left road, okay, got it. You ain't gonna work with them again. But I can tell you right now, the multifamily world is small. So the guys who
yeah,
screw you over, screw somebody over, that gets over to the next person. Um,
yeah, it does.
so yeah. So with that
Yeah,
said,
it does.
Steve, and you got a lot of things going on, so I know how busy you are. It took us forever to get us both on here at the same time. So
Right,
with that
right.
said, I don't want to waste your time. I definitely we're gonna have to get back on and do this again. But in the meantime,
Yeah,
we're gonna
yeah.
do let's hop straight into the our two sections. First
Yeah.
one, Steve, as you know, is the what do we call it? I'm blanking. Hold on. Wait. Troop to task. That's what we call it. We call it the
There
troop
it
to
is.
task. All right. So
There
we're
it is.
doing the troop to task. What the troop to task is, for those who are listening and watching, is Steve's going to give you one thing you can do right now in your life to help you push yourself to the next level in your real estate career. And with that said, Steve, the floor is yours.
One thing you got to do right now to push forward your career in the real estate investing world is you need to track and measure your incoming lead flow. Right?
Mm,
Track and measure your incoming lead flow. What I mean by that, well, how are you sourcing deals? Right? And you should, by the way, have multiple ways, whatever that is. Right? Whether it's direct mail, cold calls, driving for dollars, working with brokers, pulling up properties. You need to track and measure, first of all, how many leads you're getting on a weekly basis,
mm-hmm.
where those leads came from, right? And then you need to have a system to track those leads, the contact, when to follow up, the appointments, right? And when I say a system, some sort of, software program. I mean, I guess you could use, old school pads like we used to, but there's so many CRMs for investors. I use Podio, but there's so many systems out there that you can use to track and measure your incoming lead flow, right? And you should have a goal of how many leads you're going to get every single week, and incoming property leads. If you're raising capital, incoming investor leads, whatever leads, you need to have them, right? You are running a business. And so you need to track and measure them, where you're getting them from, what they are, and what the next steps of follow up are on that lead. And then that'll increase your business for sure.
I love it. That's excellent advice. Now, with that said, we're going to get into our next segment. So now we're gonna get into hot seat, and I got some game show music these days. So we're gonna see how this pops off. Here we go. Oh yeah, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the show. Today we've got another illustrious guest. Today we have Mr. Steve Peterson, who's going to help us out with these questions, and we're going to have a good time here, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you for tuning in, and let's get right into it. So Steve, welcome to the game show.
Thank you.
Um,
Glad to be here.
dude, I'm working on this. This is amazing. All right,
Nah, it's
so
good.
so first question, my friend. First question. We're gonna give you 5 questions. None of these have to do with real estate. They can if you'd like. But you and I are gonna answer these
Perfect.
questions. We're gonna have ourselves a good time. So first
Good.
question is, what's an unwritten rule you believe everyone should follow?
Hey, look, it's the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have done to yourself, man.
I like
Just
it.
look, pay it back, pay it forward, man. Whatever you would do or have done to someone, that's how you should roll. Don't. Don't treat somebody a certain way and then expect a difference when that time comes back to you. You know what I mean?
Right.
So keep it real. Do unto others as you would have done to yourself.
I like it. I like it. I will say mine. Man, what is I believe, and actually, this is technically a written rule. Well, no, yeah, in some places written, some places not. When you're on
Yeah,
the
yeah.
highway, if you are going 40 on a 60, listen, I'm gonna need you to stay out the left lane. Just please,
But
for the love
get
of
out the
God,
way.
just stay out the left lane, man. People are trying to
Yeah.
go places, right? And they're trying to go fast. I don't want you to be a
Then
victim,
yeah.
right? And I
Yeah.
don't want to be stuck behind you. So, that's mine. All right. So, first
It's a good
question
one.
down. First question
It's a
down. All
good
right,
one,
next
man.
one. Steve, what do you exaggerate about the most?
Raider football.
I saw that
And
coming.
we will be going to the bowl next year once Aaron Rodgers comes in
Mm.
to home. Mark my words on this podcast. Raider football will be back again, again. Once Aaron Rodgers will be wearing the silver and black, throwing to Devontae Adams. You mark my words right
Listen, I'm gonna write that down. I'm gonna write that down to check
now.
this. What's this time mark? What's the time mark? 53:32. Got it. 53:32. I'm marking that time mark. So what's gonna
Yes,
happen
sir.
is when and if that happens, I'm going to send you that clip. And if it doesn't, I'm gonna still send you the clip.
Hey, look, we've been going to the Super Bowl every year in
Mm,
August for the last 15 years, man.
got it. Uh,
Let me tell you, you know what I mean?
got it. Got it. Tracker. Like so for me, the thing I exaggerate the most is any story that involves me doing something to someone else. When I was playing soccer, I
Yeah,
was a goalkeeper. If I
yeah,
punched a player in the head, which I did do a couple times, going after the ball, it wasn't my fault. Their head got in
right,
the way
right.
of me getting to the ball. Not my
That's
problem
right,
at that point, right? But
man.
in my story, it was a 10-time KO. I knocked all the grass off the field by hitting him in the head, and I went all the way in.
Yeah,
So
he
just
came
so
at
you
you
know,
wrong, man. You had to defend your turf, man. You had
exactly,
to,
exactly.
stand tall.
He said something about my mama, so I had to knock him out. Um, so, so let's go to the
Yeah,
next question. Next question, Steve. When you get home tonight, what's the first thing you do?
man. Work out with my kids.
Really?
That
Okay.
and that's yeah. So and my son, all I have three kids. They're all athletes. My son will go from 7-on-7 football practice today. He'll go wrestling after that. And when we
Love
get
it.
home, my girls, we're gonna do some track drills and some squats. And my son will get it, and we work out. We work out pretty consistently, man. I'll tell you, working out with my kids, man. When I first come home, it takes all the stress off
Okay.
and it gets me into just a great. So when I get home tonight, we gonna get some squats and some track drills in, and then go and break some bread, get some dinner. I know it sounds boring, but the
No,
kids are gonna be worked out, and it kind of keeps me young and in shape as well.
no, I like that. I like that. My kids are 4 and 9, so they're not doing any workout programs at this point right now. Not yet. We'll get
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
as soon as I can, I'll get them practicing soccer every time I can when I can.
Yeah,
So
man.
I might implement that one. So my answer might change from later or for
Yeah,
later on. But for right now, when I get home, oh man, what's the first thing I'm doing when I get home? Oh, I'm getting out uniform. I swear to everything on God's green earth. Lord, I love the U.S. Army. Father, forgive me. Uniform be uncomfortable at the end of the day, boy.
yeah. I
Your
bet. I
feet be
bet,
hot.
man.
You be hurt
Yeah, right.
totally for no reason. Oh man, I gotta get out of uniform. That's the first thing I'm doing when
First
I get home.
thing.
Out of uniform.
First
Clearly,
thing.
clearly it didn't happen today. Next, next question. If you're a professional wrestler, Steve, what would your name be?
Well, Superfly Jimmy Snooker is already taken. You know what
Wait,
I'm
what?
saying?
I've never heard that one. All right.
Superfly Jimmy Sooker is already, that was from back in my day. Uh, if I was a professional wrestler,
Yeah.
would you would have to call me? You would call me LG Smooth.
Okay. Okay.
I, I would be LG Smooth.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I
Okay.
got all the moves.
Okay.
You know what
Got
I
it.
mean? And I don't know where I got that from. It just came out of nowhere, and it sounds good. LG
Yeah.
Smooth. I'm about to make that. I'm about to make myself a alter ego. LG Smooth in the house.
Listen,
You know what
next
I
time
mean?
next time we get an interview, you gonna have a face mask and everything. Coming here ready to go. Ready
Somebody
to
just
go.
sign me. I just need to gain like 20 pounds or 30 pounds of muscle. That's all. That's you
Yeah,
know what I mean.
that's yeah. That's gonna push the interview back a little bit, just a little bit. Good gracious! All right, so for me, what would I go by of a wrestler's name? Um, mm, I probably go for something unsuspecting like Tiny. maybe maybe
You put
maybe
on
so,
like
yeah
bigger.
yeah so, yeah come in hulking just huge for no
Yeah,
reason they call me Tiny.
right.
Maybe like the big camo, maybe Big O is a cartoon I saw when I was younger, and
There you
Oliver,
go.
it works, it just
There
works.
you
I
go.
like it.
I like it.
All right,
I
cool.
like it, man. You gotta do
Next
that again,
question.
man.
Right, next question. I'd You'd like to see what band forever? This is a
Mmm.
tough one. This is a toughie.
Band forever.
Band forever. Forever band. Can't
Man,
do it no more.
man. Okay, so I gotta think about this. We talk
No
about that.
sweat. No sweat. Here, you think I got one for you. It popped in my head
Yeah.
just now. All right. So, um, as I spoke, I am a soccer player. I used to be a soccer player relatively consistently. One thing that I wish was banned forever: the whole diving, and this is across all sports. This turned
Yeah.
into a sports cracker. I'm sorry, y'all. It's a sports podcast now. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
All
It's cool.
sports,
Yeah.
right? Stop flopping, man. Soccer is probably the most notorious for it. Now it's leaked into basketball. It's
Cool.
leaked into
Yep.
you don't see it too much in football, but it's leaked into basketball and it's leaked into a couple other sports. But soccer is the most notorious for it. And you got other players like French, Germans. Now they coming into NBA, and here we go with the flopping, bro. Unless you get your ankles broke, I don't need you flopping. If somebody shake you off, if Kyrie give you the business and put you in a
Yeah.
spinner, all right, I get you grabbing your ankle and rolling across the court, right? I would do it
Man,
too. I would do it too. You gotta
man,
save face.
who players be like curling up like a baby when they
Yes,
catch a foul. You know what I mean?
like
Be like, oh, you know what I
dude,
mean? Oh, they catch it. You know what I mean?
dude,
It's,
it's a
it's like, no,
fact.
that's a good one. That's a good one right there. Because they would just be like, look, they should start throwing flags on that. They
Hmm.
should start throwing flags when people do that kind of stuff.
See, but
You know, and that,
the problem is, Steve, though, the same people who are throwing the flags are the same people who allow it to get to the point where it's at now. If you had
right.
to start nipping it in the bud, we wouldn't be here where we are. God, dog, I'm getting frustrated
Man,
now.
you up, I mean, I know it, man. I know it,
Passionate.
man. You know what I'm saying? Well, and I since we on sports, man, you know what I mean. And here, it is. We on Super Bowl Eve. It's
Hmm.
coming up. It's about to be here. It's about to happen. And we talking about being banned forever. Is what I would like to see, man. Is when people, it's a big game coming up. People,
Hmm.
talking smack about the game, right?
Got it. Yeah.
When somebody when somebody talking crazy, you know, um, to people
Hmm.
at the game, you
Hmm.
know what I mean? And your team is losing. I would like to see when people lose, their team loses. You cannot talk smack. Your mouth is banned forever from ever talking again. You know what I mean? When
Not
you
ever again.
lose,
Ever again.
you are banned forever. At the game. Now you go home and you can say whatever you want to say.
Right.
But at the game, you
Okay.
cannot say nothing else. Now
Okay.
I'm rolling with the Eagles. But if the Eagles happen to lose,
Hmm.
it's gonna be half everybody in the stadium because the Eagles fan gonna let you know about it. And if they happen to lose,
That's
you
true.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
They shouldn't have to say that. Now I'm a Raider fan, so I hate the Chiefs. So I hope they win. You know what I mean? I hope they win. I hope they win. You know what I mean? And
Right.
but if you talk a mess and your team is out of it, you know what I mean, or to lose is at that game and you at
Hmm.
the stadium and you spilling beer on people, or you fighting people, and then you lose,
Get them
you
up out of
bad.
here. Get them up out of here.
Still at the house, man. You can't come in the game no more talking crazy. You know what I mean? Listen to all that. I should have been. I coach ball. I should have said what
Right.
I think his parents who talk crazy to the coach. especially when we win a game. You
Yeah.
lose, okay, you say what you want. Well, when we coach a game and we win, parents that talk crazy shouldn't be allowed. I'm like, we won the game. That's part two shouldn't be banned. You know
I
what I'm
I
saying?
I like that. I can co-sign with that. That's a good call. That's a good call because you got a lot of people who will talk all trash, and then when the game's over,
Yeah.
they try and
Oh, they ain't
no,
saying
don't
nothing.
sneak out now. Yeah, don't sneak
Yeah,
out now. Come
they
on
ain't
back.
saying nothing, and you know what I mean. Now, I've been guilty of it myself. You know what I'm saying? I'm a Raider fan. You know what I
Right?
mean? But now, and Raider fans is the main ones be at somebody else's stadium talking crazy, and then game's over. It's like we got so many L's
Yeah.
that it's like,
Yeah.
whatever. Just keep it cool when you're in somebody's stadium, man. For you be on TikTok and knocked out. You know what I mean?
Nobody want to be that guy. Nobody wants to be
Right,
that guy.
right, right. Come
And oh,
on.
you know what? In a movement of solidarity, I'm going to
Yeah,
support you with the Eagles. I'm gonna go for the Eagles this weekend as well. Nothing
yeah,
against the Chiefs. I don't have a dog in the fight, but I would
yeah.
like to see Jalen and the Eagles
Oh,
take it again. Particularly
yes.
Jalen. Jalen's got a really dope story, and we all watched
Man,
it transpire. That's what's so cool about his
yeah.
story.
That's I mean, and you got two black quarterbacks dueling it out.
That's a fact.
First time ever.
That's a fact.
And I mean, they're both. Mahomes is probably at the top of the quarterback world. Uh,
Yes.
I would say Jalen Hurts is the MVP this year. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll find
He's
out.
definitely
I
up
think.
for it. Yeah.
I mean, but you like what you said, his story, and we watched it unfold. And I think when you talk about one thing I teach as a coach is discipline. Our theme is discipline, honor, and respect. Right. That's what
Mm-hmm.
we try to teach these boys. I know in the military, it's big about honor, discipline. Those are important things. Well, we have a role model in Jalen Hurts of somebody who worked his butt off. Right, he got benched in the national championship game. It wasn't like he threw three picks and it was his fault that they were behind.
Yep.
It just coach made a change. For better or worse, they came back and won the game. So you can't come at a coach and be like, "Oh, you're an evil coach. You made a bad change." It's like, "Oh man, that's a tough call." And
Yeah.
then he lost out on his spot the next year. Came back to but got his team Alabama to the championship game when Tua was hurt in the I think it was SEC championship game,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Then he goes to Oklahoma. First of all, his freshman year, he lost to Deshaun Watson. Many people don't know about that. Deshaun Watson beat him the last play of the game
Oh,
when he
you're
was a
right.
freshman.
Oh, you're
So
right.
so
Yeah.
he's had, but you never seen him blame anybody. You never seen him point the finger. You never seen him act a fool on the sideline.
Yep.
You never seen him say anything out of pocket towards Alabama, Nick Saban, or anyone. You never seen him do anything. He is the ultimate professional. He is a great leader. I think he's going to get a Super Bowl ring and an MVP this year. And you know what I mean? I mean, what a great story. In today's
Yeah.
world of sports,
Yeah.
and he's just consummate. I think it's what, third year in the league. I could be wrong. Maybe it's the second year. No, third year. And look, man, he's earned it. You know what I mean? It's going to be a battle, man, on Sunday, like what you're saying. I mean, and for it to be on this stage, him have the opportunity, that would really, and even if he doesn't win, just to get there is amazing,
Yeah.
right?
It is. It
But
really is.
but to win it, and you know how it is in the United
Yeah.
States. We forget about who lost the Super Bowl, man, all the time.
Yeah.
Even though they was close,
Outside of the Bills, we all remember the Bills. The
Yeah.
Bills, poor Bills, man. I was a kid
Nah,
watching that, and they was just every game like,
yeah,
God, oh, they made
I
it
mean,
again. It was
they
got to
made
the
it again.
point where I think it was in high school or middle school at the point, and the kids all we would say was, "Boy, I love losing Super Bowls." That's what I remember as a kid. Like that's nuts. But then at the
Yeah,
same time, you look at it as I'm older.
yeah.
That took some talent. Them boys made a Super Bowl several times,
Well,
back
it
to
was
back.
4 in a row at least,
Yep.
and to get there, and they had some amazing games to get
Yes,
there.
they
And you
did.
think about it, like just to be at that level consistently, getting to the Super Bowl,
Yep.
man, it's amazing. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It just didn't happen for them, but they, like what you're saying, they put that work in. They was at a high level, man. So
Absolutely.
it's exciting, man. It's exciting to see. Well, it's gonna be a great game this Sunday, man. And I'm looking forward to it. And I'm thank you for having me on the show, man. This was fun,
Absolutely.
man.
No, man,
This was
I
great.
enjoyed it. Yeah, I enjoyed it. Before we go, first of all, let's give a shout out to the Bills.
Yeah.
Shout out to the
Shout out to the
Bills.
Bills.
Sorry y'all didn't win any
DeMar
more Super
Hamlin too.
Bowls.
I think we all got behind the Bills this year after DeMar Hamlin, right? We saw
Yeah,
that. I definitely was rolling with them, and so it was great to see that they didn't make it, but they fought hard, and you could definitely see with him
progression.
they were missing him in the
Yeah,
playoffs because
yeah,
he's not just the guy out there. He's
yeah.
an All Pro, safety. So they definitely missed him when they played against the Bengals for sure. But shout out to them and their whole organization for the way they
Absolutely,
handled it.
absolutely. I'm still a Panthers fan, so I guess y'all kick rocks. I love you nonetheless. All right. So, Steve,
Yeah.
how can people get a hold of you and reach out to you and connect with you?
Well, okay, couple ways. I mean, you could always go to our website, infinityinvestments.net. But we ask you to go to our YouTube station, Infinity Investments, on YouTube, to stay tapped in with our content. And if you go to our YouTube station, you will get content on a regular basis. You could also find me on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram and Facebook and all that, but LinkedIn is the best place. I'm most responsive to, and the one I pay more attention because that's a business social media. So I mean, website infinityinvestments.net, YouTube Infinity Investments on YouTube, and then hit me Steve Peterson on LinkedIn, and become a part of the ecosystem, man. Soak up this quality content, and let's continue growing together and get just raising the bar of the industry, man. And I also want to say thank you for your service in the military, man. We all couldn't live and breathe the way we do, brother, without what you do on a daily basis, man. So, and I appreciate it, especially serving the country the way you are, but also serving the industry the way you are with this show.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you very much. It is absolutely my pleasure and honor to be able to serve this country. That actually means a lot. So, ladies and
Yeah,
gentlemen,
man.
that said, had to clear my throat there. With that said, thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you next time. Until then. Oh, wait. Sorry. I forgot my slogan. Uh, I'm getting better. Sorry, y'all. Remember, you're better than you were, but you're not half as good as you're going to be. We'll see you next time. Later, everybody.
Thanks.